Liam from Hellfekted went up to the bar and asked for a double whiskey. They poured him an entire pint of whiskey and said, "Here you go, mate." And Liam went, "Well, hang on a second, that's a bit much. That. How much is it going to cost me?" And the guy behind the bar said, "I don't know, mate. I don't work here." And just walked off.
What's up, everyone? Liam here from Metal Ruse. I am speaking here with Daniel Lucas of London Thrashers, Thrasherwolf. We've just released a brand new single, G.B.H, ahead of their brand new album, Inside the Sickened Mind. Daniel, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, it's absolutely great to be here talking to you. Finally, man, it's actually good to put a face to the name now.
Yeah, it's a shame about the face, though, man. I'm sorry.
It's a beautiful face. You don't have to worry, bro. It's all good.
Man, I gotta say, you guys have really amped it up with this new single, G.B.H. I love the overall sound, attitude, and energy on this one. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the album, actually. So could you tell me how you guys approached this new record from a songwriting and production standpoint compared to previous releases?
Well, this album actually had a bit of a complicated start. Because I write all the songs, or most, I get all the guides done, like get all the structures. I'm constantly tapping away on notes and just writing different riffs and stuff, and thinking that'd be good in that song, and 100 in the bank right now. So I picked a good 10 songs that I wanted to go forward with for the second album with the guys that we had in the band at the time. As we were actually on the tour following that, half the band kind of didn't make it out of the tour for various reasons. But it weren't pretty, let's just say that. So by then I'd actually already recorded the guitars for the album. All the guides were pretty much done. I sent it off to the guys, they picked them apart. You know, each song's like my baby, and they're like vultures picking and tearing and ripping and touring and all that. But it's worth it in the end, because 4 heads are obviously better than 1. I'd recorded the guitars by then, and of course with only half a band, I could only do so much. And so we had the entire hiring process that we had to do, and then of course they had to learn not only the old stuff but the new stuff on top of that, ready for recording. And so what started late 2022 ended up working all the way through 2023 and right the way through to middle of 2024. Well, now I think we actually only properly finished the album literally about 2 or 3 months ago. It was a really, really tough process to sort of work it all out. And all I know is that the new members we had, Zach and Ray, the bassist and the drummer, because it was only me and Jack, the guitarist, left. They really amped up our attitude, our new sound, because it's clear when you listen to these records exactly how the styles that they have built themselves upon really come through in the records. Like Ray's really loud and quite prominent bass tone shines through in, say, G.B.H. And Zach's drumming style is very much OG thrash, like straight from the 80s. Something you'd expect to hear straight from Dave Lombardo or Gene Hoglan or something like that. They really upped the production style. We went to a producer called Andy Brook, who'd actually worked on the first album and 1,000 Eyes with us. And we decided to stay quite faithful in that regard, because we knew he'd be willing to record it all for us, and he knew us as people as well, so he'd be able to work around us and how difficult sense, yeah. Exactly how difficult and maybe slightly annoying we may become. As for the artwork for the different many parts of the second album, we wanted to go for something a bit more, we wanted to go very professional style, very 80s, very old style MTV. I must say, we went with Andrei Buzikov for the main artwork for this album. Like, oh my god, his work is amazing. Working Municipal Waste, Toxic Holocaust, some of the greatest in the thrash genre. And of course, the guy who mastered our album, Patrick W. Engels, worked with Testament, Slayer, Anthrax, so many of the the bigger names, like the
Oh,
gods, you know, the guys we looked up to. And so we thought it'd be just a perfect combination to have these absolute professionals work on this album that we were really sure is going to do quite an amazing job.
And you mentioned 1,000 Eyes before, like that was your last single back in 2022. Other than the songwriting and lineup issues and all that, can you tell me what Thrasherwolf have been up to for the past 2 years? This year you did some shows with Acid Rain, is that correct? And a few festival appearances.
Yeah, we've done a few festival appearances. We're going to be playing with Acid Rain, I think in December, for the Christmas show in Birmingham.
No, I got my dates mixed.
That's what made them about it. We've done plenty of good shows recently. I mean, we played Northants Open Air. That was a great one. We've done a lot of packed out shows across London and the UK, especially when it comes to headlining. We're just sort of trying to make ourselves known as a band worthy of headlining these shows now, and it's working. People are the pack is coming from all sides, and they're moshing. There's walls of death, and they're throwing everyone about, and it really makes us feel like the pack is really growing and becoming a full-on force. We've, as you said, been doing festival appearances, Northants, Mangata, the Coalition Fest in London, and we've also been playing with bands like Evil as well, which of course was a massive thing for us. So we were so excited to do that, and I think that's the second time we played with Evil as well. But we've already got some good festivals and some weekly shows coming up next year as well. So it's gonna be cool.
I'm very curious about the UK thrash metal scene like these days. I mean, you've got the ever-present European metal scene. UK feels very, very cut off now. I mean, but like, you know, you've had some stellar bands come out over the years. You mentioned Evil. I remember listening to their very first demo when I was a kid. And but it's great to see more thrash bands from the UK coming out. So especially these days, guys like yourself and Blacklist.
When we started out, I'd say, because we did a couple of open mic nights in 2017, I don't really count. So the first real gigs we did was like in 2019. Back then, it might have just been the fact that we were new, but it didn't really feel like there was that much of a scene. It felt like there was very much a dying down of what was once there, especially in terms of thrash metal, because I don't remember a lot of thrash metal bands back then, other than maybe Halberd or Detoxin in London. But since then, it's only been in the past few years, there's been a huge resurgence in thrash metal in the UK, with bands popping up all over the country, from Manchester, London. London's got the London Metal Coalition now, which has created an immensely powerful community of some truly amazing bands and talents in London. There's loads of bands from Wales coming out now, like Exhaust. They're superb, those guys. They really are. And of course, our brothers in Hellfekted from the Midlands, and Blacklist, of course, from the north. There's so many for me to like. The Hellbearer, they're another wicked bunch of guys as well. There's so many bands that I could mention from the scene, or well, thrash in general in this country, that are really helping the resurgence come back, and people are coming in their droves to see these bands. It's quite exciting, really, to see people of all ages in these audiences of quite relatively new acts. We feel it's going very strong, and we're hoping, or I at least think now, that it's on a path where it can catch up with, let's say, Europe and America and the rest of the world, and that in this age of whatever you fancy is the fad, so to speak, because let's face it, fashion is pretty much like that now. It's whatever you fancy wearing is what you are going to wear, and that's the fashion. I feel like in terms of music, that's the way it is now as well.
I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you feel like listening to is exactly what's okay. It's okay to listen to whatever the hell you want now. And so it's just nice knowing that we can catch up with the rest of the world in terms of thrash metal at the very least.
How often are you guys playing your hometown of London compared to other towns? I mean, you mentioned all the festivals that you were playing before. How are audiences taking to Thrasherwolf in different towns other than your hometown?
I'd say playing London is probably about 3 or 4 times a year at max.
Okay.
Mainly because you don't want to overplay
Mm.
the location. There's only so many times so many people are going to want to come see you in the space of a month
Yeah.
or of a year or something. So it's wise as a band to space out the times at which you play these locations, because if you time it right, when you come back, it's going to pay off. When we played the Dev with Trendkill not too long ago, another amazing band by the way, and the Dev was absolutely packed out to the absolute rafters. One of the best shows we've played all year. It was superb. So we don't tend to want to hit any singular place any more than maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, even this year, I think the last London performance we have is the album release show, which is going to be at the Dev. Completely free entry as well. That's going to be a big one. We've had a lot of excitement for that coming our way, and we cannot wait for that show. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. It's going to be with Halberd and Fracture Point. That's going to be just a night of absolute unbridled thrash mayhem.
Just name checking all these British thrash bands that I need to check out. Right on. But from what I've seen, there seems to be a lot of community between these UK thrash bands. I mean, there was that whole sort of trifecta between you guys, Hellfekted, and Blacklist. Like, how did that all come about?
Well, we were always massively good friends with each other. I've known Liam from Hellfekted for a good 8 years now. I think it's been a long time. I remember us talking when we were starting out our bands, and we were like figuring out the do's and the don'ts, and oh my god, this has happened to me. Things are still happening now. I can't quite get this band together properly. Let's just talk it out. And then I think that we joined our first management company, Unearthed Music, with Hellfekted at the time, and I think Blacklist were going to join very shortly afterwards, and that's when I met Tyler and the rest of Blacklist, and we just sort of all became quite good friends with each other, and we thought, you know what, let's start, early. Let's actually get all the stuff we want to do and just smash it out. Let's not fear the unknown. Let's get these tours sorted. Let's spend some time together. Let's, I don't know, maybe even start planning a joint EP of some kind. Because although the Trifecta may not be doing so much at the moment, we are still planning things that we want to do in the future. So it's not stopped. It's just lying a little low at the moment. The Trifecta will come back in full force.
This is a question I like to ask a lot of British musicians, because it's a very relevant issue that's affected everyone differently. I mean, a few months ago, I was talking to James from Hellripper about this, but I'd be keen to hear your take on this. I mean, how has Brexit affected touring musicians in the UK, and especially with prospects to tour continental Europe? I assume that's something you guys want to do, and how has that affected you as a band?
It's made things about 1,000 times harder. It really has, and even just from a financial standpoint. I mean, I don't know the do's or the don'ts or the ins and the outs of how things used to be, because Brexit and sort of COVID and that sort of era was where Thrasherwolf were really starting to build themselves up. Yeah. And so we hadn't even thought about like leaving London, let alone leaving the UK. But even just financially, it's the Brexit has taken a massive toll on touring musicians as a whole. It like even for like visa and passport stuff, it's just made things so much more difficult. I mean, things are working themselves out at the moment, and maybe things are slightly more easy now than they were when Brexit first started up. But no one can deny the impact it's had on the sort of like the underground touring musician.
Oh my god, yeah.
But there's nothing you can do about it at the moment. You just have to sort of power on, give what you need to give, take what you need to take, and just sort of make the most of what you're about to do. I mean, I know for a fact that it's not going to stop us, and we have contacts in different countries like the Netherlands and Germany and even the Eastern Bloc with Ray being Latvian. He has friends over there. He knows places and venues over there. So we're hoping to hit a lot of Europe very quickly, especially with the second album coming out. I mean, we haven't even really touched Scotland yet, and I know that's not Europe, but it's still different. It's still, out of the way. We want to go to Ireland, Scotland, and then over to Europe, and then eventually, when we feel like we've like understood how to tour, head over to places like America and Australia, and just sort of, well,
Australia's not even real, man. Don't worry about Australia.
Is that the place Mufasa told Simba not to go?
the shadowy place. That's Beenleigh, yeah.
Build the pack big and strong and take it across the world.
Back to the album, though. We've only heard the new single. So what can we expect from the rest of this record? Like, what kind of themes have you addressed? What kind of, and how soon can we hear another single?
Well, the next single is actually going to be out the 20th of September.
Nice, not far away.
I've yet to reveal the artwork just yet, but that will be coming soon.
Sweet.
It's called Final Act of Aggression, and it's been our closing song for the past 6 months for every show we've done. It's extremely fast-paced, extremely no-nonsense. One might say extremely creatory. It's a song that I sort of thought this will be a nice ode, a nice homage to perhaps my actual favorite band of all time. And in case Millie hears it and wants us from hearing that, please notice me, Millie. Notice me.
Notice me, senpai.
Yeah. It's going to have one of perhaps the best pieces of artwork Thrasherwolf have ever had attached to it as well. I can only say the name of the piece at the moment. It's called Frank in a Tank, and it may sound self-explanatory, but it's got more to it than you might think.
I look forward to it.
The rest of the album sort of has the concept of I don't know, the mental extremes, I guess you could say, with topics like PTSD being touched with in the ballad Haunted, like schizophrenia being touched upon in the actual title track inside the Sickened Mind, to G.B.H. that talks about the breaking of a mind under oppression when they've just had enough, and like it encompasses you and you can't escape. And even to songs like Consumed, where it talks about one's obsessions, one's dreams being ingrained in them, and they're literally consumed by their dreams and their goals.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an OCD type thing that one might pick up from that. I mean, that it's something that I like. It's actually written via myself. It is something that I feel has become somewhat relative to me, that I have maybe that thrash will become quite a bit of an encompassing thing in my life, but it's been rather positive, and so I don't really tend to want to break away.
Excellent. I really look forward to hearing the rest of the album, Daniel. And before we finish up, I'd like to hear a funny tour story or an embarrassing tour story that Thrasherwolf have endured.
Oh, have you got to spare half an hour? Right.
Do you?
Okay, funny tour story. Let's go with North Wales. So by that point, half our band had already been fired from the tour because, well, for reasons I won't go into. But it was just me and Jack left. And so we went on down to Wales. That was the next tour stop, and we thought, you know what, we'd support the rest of the guys, because it's just what you do on a tour. You support the rest of the bands with you. Yeah, it was a trifecta tour as well, so even more reason to support the bands that were with us. Let's just say when we got there, the stage was being built. Like literally, we got in there and we heard the hammers and the drills, and I just sort of looked around the corner, and they were building the stage out of like loose timber, And I sort of remember thinking and looking at Jack and thinking, that's not right, really, is it? And so we went on in thinking, okay, fair enough. They built it too close to the ceiling as well. So one small jump and you've literally knocked yourself out. When you looked backstage, it was an old kitchen, but hadn't been cleared out properly. So if you're thinking about abattoir levels of backstagery, and we just sort of looked at each other thinking, this is going to be one of those days, isn't it? We went upstairs to see the accommodation that we were supposed to get. Right. And I remember seeing what looked like a complete bombshell, a complete bomb site. And this is where we were going to leave our gear, where we were going to sleep. We looked upstairs, there were dead cockroaches and flies on the windowsills. The windows had been sealed up, so you could not open them. So come a fire, we were fucked.
So you're like, we're all going to die tonight in one way or another.
Basically, yeah, there was a shelf full of bleach and a big table full of pennies, which I still, to this day, cannot make a correlation between. There were heroin needles in the joists, a broken toilet in the back, and a group of what I can only describe as 12 shit-stained mattresses.
It just keeps getting better. Wow.
It keeps getting better. I mean, the only good thing about the entire thing is that someone left a Twinkie in the box that was sitting on a random chair quite close to the exit. And I remember the manager picking up the stairs, and he looked at us and he thought, "You're not allowed to be here." And I was like, well, "Okay, we're staying here, aren't we?" And he was like, "Yeah, but you're not allowed to be here yet." I was like, "Yet. That's quite a key word here. That's a bit of a red flag." Okay. And I remember Kieran, who was the roadie at the time, sort of looked at the guy promoting and doing the sound and stuff, and he was like, "Well, aren't you meant to be downstairs, like seeing that the bands are okay, making sure they've got refreshments, making sure they've got things that they need, you know, like the actual tech is working? Okay, can you get downstairs and make sure things are done yet?" Because Kieran's an absolute G. He's fantastic. He makes sure things get done. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, sure.
And we went downstairs and we just sort of like, okay, we've got time. So me and Jack, we started having a beer. And when the headlining band arrived, things started to get a bit wild. I remember one of us going for a wee and seeing a drug deal, going down in the bathroom with what I can only describe as a handle of possibly a firearm in one of their pockets. So of course I open the door, I see it, and I'm like, "All right, mate." And I've just got my cock out of the urinal, thinking like, "This is happening. And I hear the boom, and I'm like, "Oh God, I'm frozen." Like, what the hell was that? It was them walking out the door. I thought, "Oh my God, I'm going to die with my cock out. This is brilliant." And they moved to the girls' bathroom and started doing dealings in there. And obviously Becky, from the guitarist from Hellfekted, had to use the loo as well. She's human. We had to bring her into the lads' bathroom and stand guard while they were doing their thing. Remember, Liam from Hellfekted went up to the bar and asked for a double whiskey. They poured him an entire pint of whiskey and said, "Here you go, mate." And Liam went, "Well, hang on a second, that's a bit much, that. How much is it going to cost me?" And the guy behind the bar said, "I don't know, mate, I don't work here." Just walked up. What's worse is we couldn't play, Blacklist couldn't play because the venue couldn't take the tech specs they had.
Right.
They were the only band that could really play. And the only thing I remember about the audience in that performance was there being an extremely drunk man rolling about on the floor, which it was perhaps one of the worst places we'd ever seen, played, been. If it weren't for the fact that the drummer of Hellfekted at the time's mum let us all sleep around her house, imagine 12 angry metalheads kipping in your front room. That was essentially our saving grace.
Yeah,
we owe her our lives.
Oh.
We really do. She was fantastic. She even cooked us a massive full English breakfast in the morning.
Oh, what a champion!
I just remember me and Jack. We went into the, I think it was a side room there, where me and him were going to sleep, and it was a sofa, and we were just happy for anywhere to kit. And we sat there and we balled up. We balled up like that because I need to have my feet up to be able to sleep, so I balled up like that.
Yeah.
It was awful. I couldn't sleep for the life of me. I was we were sweaty from the night, and it was sticking to the upholstery, and I was just going, At 5 o'clock in the morning, we woke up, and I remember looking at Jack and thinking, saying, "How did you sleep?" And he was like, "Oh, fucking don't." And he felt down the side of the sofa, and he was like, "Dan?" I was like, "Yeah, Jack." And he pulled the lever, and it turned out it was a recliner.
Oh, the whole time.
The whole time.
Oh man,
at that point we just gave up, mate. At that point we just gave up. But yeah, that's my funny tour story. It's how we are scarred to this very day.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that. That's great. Daniel, thank you very much for your time. This has been interesting. All the very best.
Thank you for having me on, man. Honestly, really, it means a lot, man. It's good to finally talk to you face to face.
No, my pleasure, man. And well, yeah, all the best with the new album, and hope everything works out better for you than that one night in Wales, hey?
Anything better than that one night in Wales. Thanks very much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on. Thank you so much.